A business is typically different than a philanthropic organization. But what if business can, at its core, be philanthropic? What if everything a business does is entirely derived from the motivation to do good?
We separate this idea of business and doing good in the world as two things that cannot be compatible with each other. The advice I would give to a younger me is they can both exist. They should both exist together. You don't have to separate them. You shouldn't separate them. You can think about them as one.
That's Jesse Grothaus, an Army veteran and the founder and CEO of Cloud Pathfinder Consulting. Jesse has spent the last 3 years building a company that brings to life the idea that doing business and doing good do not and should not exist apart from one another. As he's built his business, he has found that his philanthropic mission has guided him through many of the problems entrepreneurs typically face, from hiring to retention to securing the next contract. There are always exciting things happening in the world of small business. The news that grabs the headlines, though, are always the highlights, the overnight successes, the billion-dollar IPOs, the massive exits. But just like your Instagram feed, that's never the whole story. Let's look deeper than the headlines and the press photos. Underneath all of that is the real work building something valuable and lasting. Don't get me wrong, I love crazy success stories and can be drawn into those big flashy tales just as much as the next person. But we all know that what's more important than the destination is how you get there. It's the struggles you have to overcome and the insights you learn along the way that make you who you are. So those are the stories we're telling. It's raw, it's honest, and maybe it's exactly what you need to hear. I'm Hillary Georgie, and this is The Journey. Growing up, Jesse was always fascinated by technology. Not just what new bells and whistles the latest gadget brought to the table, but also what old tasks it could help optimize.
I grew up in San Jose, California. My dad was a police officer and my mom worked at various tech companies, including Apple during the 80s and 90s. As early as I want to say second or third grade, I had discovered that this program called Excel could do my math homework for me. I started programming Excel to basically do all these functions to kind of help me out in math.
But it was more than just math homework Jesse was optimizing. And in high school, his Excel skills came in handy when he got the first bite of the entrepreneurial bug.
When I was in high school, I actually created and sold this barbecue sauce that I made from scratch. And I owned the whole process from doing wholesale orders of equipment and inventory and pricing out things in Excel and doing some profit and loss analysis, and then marketing and sales. And it was kind of my first real big taste as far as that entrepreneurial life.
But while business and technology called to Jesse, a different mission called louder. Jesse was just 11 years old when he, like the rest of the world, was shaken to his core by the events of September 11th, 2001. Ignited by what was happening in the world and eager to do his part, Jesse decided to join the military as soon as he graduated high school.
The job I had in the Army was a job called psychological operations. That was a job where we would go in and go into a foreign country and basically do what we could to win the hearts and minds of the local population using what we would pretty much refer to today as marketing techniques, identifying a target audience and then finding ways to build our reputation with them on the ground and prevent future warfare from rising up in certain spots.
It was an important position, and one that would prepare him in many ways for the civilian business world once he re-entered that world full-time. Jesse spent 8 years in the Army Reserves while simultaneously working his way through his bachelor's degree. When his 8-year Army contract came to an end, he was ready for something new. Jesse decided to make his way back to where he grew up, the tech and business epicenter of the world, Silicon Valley. He got a job doing database work, and then he found another position doing SaaS sales. That sales role taught him vital business skills and helped round out his knowledge of technology. Now he knew not only how it worked, but how to sell it too. Then life threw him a curveball.
Right as I was starting to really kind of rise up in this company, had an accident, a car accident just outside of work, had a mild traumatic brain injury, which kept me out of the workforce for a couple of years. And during that time, my doctors were able to diagnose and say, all right, Jesse, you've got a mild brain injury here, but to help recover, I want you learning a new skill and a new language to help recover. Probably the most interesting thing was I had to almost relearn how to learn things in general. My memory wasn't quite as good. My mental performance was just shy of what I knew I was capable of in the past. And so I took time to really relearn the foundations of how the human mind thinks and remembers and learns things, which if you kind of think about, we didn't actually really learn that too much in school. We just kind of took it for granted of, hey, here's the thing you need to learn, go learn it. But we didn't take a lot of time to kind of study, well, how do humans learn?
It took many long hours of practice for him to rebuild that mental foundation. To help exercise those muscles, he began looking for a new skill and language to learn, as his doctors had recommended. At his sales job before the accident, Jesse had started using a program called Salesforce. He fell in love with the program and had become the go-to guy at the company for all things Salesforce related. And now, as he was recovering from his injury, he thought maybe Salesforce could be his new skill and Apex could be his new language.
So started in my downtime, started treating Trailhead and Salesforce like it was my full-time recovery, and was able to, a couple months later, get back into the workforce with 2 certifications, a couple hundred badges, some experience as a Salesforce consulting partner that just kind of really exploded from there.
He found support in a group at Salesforce called VetForce, which trained and connected veterans and military spouses with careers at Salesforce. As Jesse continued to develop an outstanding portfolio of work with Salesforce, he started working with a few different Salesforce consulting partners. He realized that not only were his skills in high demand, he still had that entrepreneurial itch, and it wasn't long before he needed to scratch it.
Starting an SI consultancy firm, it's not that revolutionary of a business idea. There are plenty out there. But what I wanted to do differently was I really wanted to have a social impact mission at the core of what we did. So because VetForce was such a big influence as far as where I had gotten to in these last couple of months, my way of giving back to this community was I wanted to hire other people, other veteran spouses that were coming out of the VetForce program.
Jesse went to work building his own SSI consultancy, a company he decided to call Cloud Pathfinder as an homage to his 2 worlds, Cloud from the tech world and Pathfinder, which is a term used in the military.
Like the military, I would say that was probably another period of fun times I'd never want to do again. A lot of work, a lot of hustle, and I was starting to get clients on my own, and it was getting to a point where I had to realize I can't do all this work on my own. I need someone to help me out. So I started subcontracting to a friend of mine who had just gotten his computer science degree. He was a Navy veteran. I've known him since high school. And I think that was for me the first sign of like, hey, something's clicking here. Like, it's absolutely one thing to get your first customer. I think every founder and entrepreneur will forever remember their first customer. But to get to that point in a service-based industry where you've also got your first employee, that's a huge milestone as far as like, okay, things are working and they're going in the right direction.
That was 3 years ago, and today, Cloud Pathfinder has grown far beyond that 2-person team. After the break, Jesse shares what it's been like building a business with a social impact mission that fuels the machine. Plus, he talks about how his company has pivoted since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, and how he's tried to improve the employee experience to help reflect the times.
It takes a lot to grow a business, but one thing's for certain. You've got to have a laser focus on the customer. That's why we use Salesforce Essentials at Mission every day. With Essentials, your small business has access to the same CRM tools driving results for some of the most successful companies on earth. Think Adidas, Amazon, T-Mobile, Toyota, Intuit, Marriott, and tens of thousands more. Track your business health by measuring sales, emails, customer satisfaction, and custom metrics. Go to getessentials.com/thejourney to start your free 90-day trial today.
The entire business world is facing the health, economic, and social fallout of the COVID-19 pandemic, and small businesses have been among the hardest hit.
We were just getting out of the early stage growing pains right around January or February of this year. And then COVID happened. It set us back definitely in terms of growth, but we managed to make it through all right. Very fortunate that we had no layoffs or no staff reduction in our whole time that we were dealing with COVID.
But even without layoffs, the transition from pre-COVID to mid and post-pandemic operations has changed how we all do and think about work. Cloud Pathfinder has fielded a remote team since day one, so working from home has been nothing new for them. What has changed is how they go about assisting and guiding clients who were newly remote.
A lot of our customers who were not used to working from home, that was a new challenge for them. That was new systems that needed to be brought up, new ways of business, digital transformation all across the board for what our customers needed doing. And fortunately, I think we were at a bit of an advantage there because we needed to be so strong in our digital presence from day one in order to successfully run a remote team that we were able to kind of help our customers through a lot of those digital transformation projects.
But the focus this year hasn't been entirely client-centered. Cloud Pathfinder's employees may be used to remote work, but no one could have prepared for the extra pressures this year has put on every other aspect of our lives, from extended personal responsibilities to new family obligations to cancel plans and beyond. That's why Jesse's biggest focus this year has been on his staff.
There's a phrase in the consulting world of happy team, happy client. I've been putting a lot of thought into that this year as far as, well, this is not an easy year to try to keep employees happy. But what we have done in particular, some tactics we ran. First, we increased the transparency and communication tempo with my team as far as, hey, here's the state of the company. Here's where we're at. Here's where our weak points are. Here's where our strong points are. Here's how you can help kind of see us through these hard times. And in return, let us know how, as an employer, we can help. So some of the things that we did as an employer to help were we introduced a lot more flexibility into people's schedules. We introduced a lot more PTO time.
Jesse has been watching employee fatigue closely. A mentally exhausted and emotionally drained team is not one that can deliver happy clients.
Outside of just your typical sales KPIs, one thing we're also trying to watch out is for that fatigue. And it's now not so much like somebody raises their hand and says, I'm mentally fatigued. We look for the signs of it. Something that I actually rely on more is reports from the team about other people themselves. If employee A comes to me and says, hey, employee B, they're having these kind of issues, they might not have brought up to you in particular, Jesse, but it might be worth talking to them and just kind of understanding where they're coming from with these certain issues. So we're really relying on each other to also watch out for everyone else too.
When the entire team is keeping an eye out for each other's well-being, naturally, a culture of care and a high barometer of emotional intelligence is created. The human cost of doing business never goes unnoticed. And for Jesse and his team, business has never been about profit at all costs. All their hard work and passion is derived from one core driver, their mission.
The social impact mission that we have of helping veterans and veteran spouses is the reason I think every employee of ours gets up in the morning and comes in and shows up. We are a member of the Pledge 1% movement. So 1% of our profit and our time goes to Merivis, which is a nonprofit that trains veterans and veteran spouses on getting Salesforce certified as they transition out of the military. So they're able to come out of the military and get these high-paying, great Salesforce tech jobs that normally they wouldn't have direct access to. So if the business side of things gets a little boring, looking at too many spreadsheets or whatever, it's always great to think about ways that we can kind of help boost our volunteer efforts and future ways that we can help more and more veterans. I always give the recommendation for other entrepreneurs to consider joining the Pledge 1% movement. Make that a part of your mission and who you are. And it's not just so that you've got a little extra goodwill on the PR side, but you're going to notice that your employees have more motivation. They like showing up to work and they find more value and meaning in the work that you're doing. It's a way to kind of light up the business world and light up your purpose and your vision within it.
Cloud Pathfinder's social impact mission isn't only about doing good for the veteran community. It's about the trickle-down effect that happens when everyone is brought in and rowing together.
We've seen very surprising success in terms of employee recruitment and winning customer deals because of our social impact mission that I had no clue that this would happen when I first started this company. I did it because I wanted to help veterans, but here we are seeing that we have some of the best employee retention in this industry. We're winning projects in certain industries that really like our story. And so there's a business advantage to this as well, as it just is the right thing. So I always recommend to other entrepreneurs to think about what a meaningful Pledge 1% relationship for them and their company could look like.
When you think about the impact you can have, remember that you do not have to separate the work you do in business from how you contribute to the greater good. Those two things can be linked in a way that will help you grow professionally and personally. And when you do combine humanitarian aspirations with your business goals, it will be inspiring to watch your clients, employees, stakeholders, and community respond in kind as the world changes for the better. Because in the words of Jesse's longtime idol and Salesforce founder Mark Benioff, quote, "In business, we say that people overestimate what you can do in a year and underestimate what you can do in a decade." That is true in philanthropy as well.
Succeeding as a startup, solo founder, or any small business is an uphill battle. It takes the right mindset and the right tools. That's why we're thrilled to partner with Salesforce Essentials to bring you the journey. Managing one podcast, let alone a whole media studio, is a challenge to say the least. But Essentials makes it easy to maintain relationships and grow our business. With Essentials, your startup has access to the same CRM driving insights and results for the most successful companies in the world. Use unrivaled Salesforce technology to track customers, sales, emails, and more. You'll know where your business is and where it's headed as you chart the path for your journey. We love using Essentials, and we know you will too. Go to getessentials.com/thejourney to start your free 90-day trial today.